Hey, very good afternoon to you traders. It's Mark here from Daytrading Room. Time's 4 p.m. London time on a Sunday afternoon, just sitting here in the home office reviewing my trades from last week and looking at specifically what I can focus more on next week to maximize profits. We've got a different trading environment at the moment. There's a lot more action going on. A lot of the traders I've spoken to have said this is the best week last week for the year so far, and I have to agree, been very good volatility, so long may it continue. I'm going to talk a little bit more in a second about what I'm focusing on next week, but I just want to remind everybody that the chat room, the forum and the Trader Mastermind webinars are free to access now. All you need to do is sign up to the mailing list to get your password for the chat room, to get your registration link for the Trader Mastermind, which is a webinar that I do every 2 weeks on a Thursday every 2 weeks, but you get the details for that if you just join the mailing list, and you'll get what the next topic is going to be, and the access link for that. Traders Forum, you can just click that link directly from the site and that takes you to the forum there. Got a good group of traders on there sharing lots of useful information, some charts and discipline and trader psychology and strategies and videos and all sorts of stuff. So join the forum there and get involved with that. And the chat room, again, that's completely free of charge. It's more of a focused chat room. You'll find it. We'll talk a lot pre-open about what conditions we're looking for, and then ultimately, we'll go quiet. Everyone focus on their own trading. Every now and then, we'll put in a level someone's looking for, or some specific news or waiting for, or just generally a bit more of more eyes on the market than one type of chat room, rather than everyone just talking away all the time. So go and have a look at that, and the room password will be emailed to you once you've joined the mailing list. Okay, so we've covered that. What I want to talk about very briefly today, and I'm probably talk more about this in the webinar on Thursday, along with some other little bits on tape reading, the pullback trade when you're wrong, something like that. I may change that topic, but there's something I want to talk about specifically because of the volatility's picked up. But at the moment, I think it's important to be to understanding where the money's flowing in the markets. Now, you don't have to overcomplicate things. I'm not one for wanting to overcomplicate things. I like to keep my strategy simple, within reason, my setup simple, and just my general trading approach simple. But ultimately, I like to understand what's moving the market at the current in the current moment, in the current week. What are other traders looking at? What are hedge fund managers looking at? What are all the traders who are moving large sums of money looking at? And I'd like to look at the same thing. Now, I may not, I'm not interested in the story as much as the hedge fund managers are, where they're moving money back and forth between different asset classes. But I'd like to see what they're seeing. So this is my macro screen, as I call it. At the moment, it's very important for me to have the euro US dollar on there, and some idea of what's happening in Europe, because the Italian elections kicked off on Monday. We've got the unexpected result there, and that caused the down move in the Dow. Now, TradeStation doesn't have the Italian index, so I've got that on another screen with another broker just to monitor that at that point in time, because I knew that was coming. But just having the euro up on the top left here, euro US dollar, just having the DAX up here. You can use at EC as well, which is the euro futures, if you don't have the euro US dollar cross. But that's just, at the moment, it's a big story, Europe, and you don't have to know anything about it. You don't have to get involved with the story or the headlines, but you just have to know that traders are looking at that, and that is affecting the US markets. And if you're trading the Dow or the ES, then it's going to be affecting your position. So it's important to have an eye on that. And if something's coming out where that's falling through the floor, you're going to expect some sort of impact on the Dow, on the S&P. So it's worth monitoring that. I've got the pound up here on the top right, which is the pound against the US cross. You can use at BP on TradeStation. You can use the British pound futures. Not so much of an impact on the Dow at the moment, but it's a big story. We know Britain's been downgraded. A lot of people are looking at that, so it's worth keeping an eye on. If there's a sudden move in that, there may be some sort of subsequent move in the US. Not so much correlated to Europe at the moment. Europe seems to be the big focus, but again, it's something to have on a macro screen. We're not trying to look at the tape for all of these things. You notice I haven't got a depth up there in time and sales. I've just got a very high time frame chart, so I can see very quickly where we are in relation. If there's a sharp move, has it plumbed through, pushed through multi-day lows, multi-day highs, whatever it may be. I can keep an eye on that sort of thing. Let's get the drawing pen out here as well so we can see the yen. This is more a case of, this seems to be in the latest thing that a lot of hedge funds are playing this trade. They're shorting the yen, or they're buying the US dollar yen cross, and so we are chugging back after that surprise downdraft that we had on Monday, which was pretty much in line with the Dow. The Dow is a small chart over here. I've got obviously the larger chart on my main screen, so I've only got a small one here, and the yen was following that. So again, it's only something that people are watching, and so that's up on my screen. But still not as important as the euro. The euro is definitely the number one thing at the moment relative to what the Dow's doing, in relation to what the Dow's doing. Crude oil, a market I like to trade, a market I just want to keep an eye on, a market I just want to see what's basically happening. And actually at a glance you can see here that what's the weakest market out there. Now the Dow, we had the flush down on Monday, that's recovered fully, and we're now, even though we did have the little dip on Friday to spook out a few people, ultimately we've closed the week not far off the highs, whereas the euro, we had the flush out on Monday and we've closed the week at the lows. And it's the same with the pound, and it's the same not far off with crude oil. We have pushed back a little bit, but Monday the flush lower. So you can see the weaker markets, you can see where the money's flowing from to, which is going to give you an idea of what's happening in your own day trades, or if you're holding it for a longer period of time. Gold at the moment is a very, very mixed type of trade, because you've got the natural inflation hedge where people are buying gold as a safety mechanism, but then on the other hand we've come down quite a long way on gold now. We've seen a lot of prominent hedge funds liquidating, Soros liquidating his gold assets. We've seen the story, the headlines with the gold paper versus what they've got in bullion. So it's a bit of a mixed instrument at the moment, but ultimately, traders will be looking at gold, especially levels like 1600, key levels like that, which we took a while to break, especially lows. So important to watch those, and watch and compare that to your Dow during the day, and the same with the euro. And if we start breaking these lows and these sort of highs, watch the impact on the Dow. You might get a little bit of a head start on a trade, or you might be able to save yourself from taking a trade that's just gonna might just stretch a little bit further because of one of these markets is moving. Bonds, obviously an inverse correlation to the Dow. Generally speaking, we are a little bit out of there at the moment, because when we fell sharply on Monday, obviously the bonds rallied, but we've stayed pretty high since then. So there's a little bit of a mismatch in correlation. This is why I think it's important to watch these things, because the general correlation is starting to change a little bit. We are getting the usual textbook type inverse relationships aren't always the same at the moment, specifically with gold and bonds and the Dow, because people are looking to new stories that are affecting the market conditions, like Europe. Not so much crude oil at the moment. We're sort of sitting here in a $90 range, but when that was skyrocketing, everyone was looking at that. So it's important to look at the engine of the market, what's driving people's decisions in the market. Not all of us are sitting here day trading, looking for the waves intraday. Most market participants are looking to take longer views, so they're looking at other markets, they're looking at other conditions, general macro conditions, and it influences their decisions. And if it influences their decisions, it makes sense for us to be looking at what they're looking at. And obviously just down here I've just got the DAX, which is just pretty similar ultimately to the euro. It's just a little bit of a thermometer on the conditions of Europe. You can substitute that for euro stocks if you prefer. So that's my macro screen. That's just one of my screens I've got, and I'm paying a lot more attention to that at the moment because of the headlines that are out, because of what is fueling the market, and it's definitely European headlines that are fueling the market. So that's a playing a very key part in my overall assessment of the market and where I'm going to place my trades, where I'm going to look for my trades, and specifically, when am I going to step back and say, okay, well, that's actually put a bit of a spanner in the works. The euro has just then. Let me just step back a bit. I mean, a brief example very quickly. On Monday, when we're falling through the floor on the Dow, if you were watching the Dow only, you may well be looking to buy at a support level. You might be thinking, okay, it's just a pullback, and ultimately this is what we were getting. If I'll just put this 60-minute up here, we were just getting a pull back from the highs, and it was coming back into the range, and you were quite feasibly said, okay, I'm buying that there. But if you'd have had your euro up and you'd said, well, look at what the euro's doing here, it's crashing through the lows. We've got the biggest move we've had for days, very solid candles here. That's what everyone's looking at. Maybe I need to be aligning myself with the short side, or at the very least standing back from taking longs on the Dow. So that's a good way of saving your money and making your money. So well worth watching other markets at the moment in time. So good trading, guys. Don't forget to go and have a look at the site, check out the forum, check out the chat room, sign up there on the mailing list, and you'll get your access for that. Keep the risk managed. Let's enjoy the next week. We've got some volatility back in the markets, which is great. Volatility equals opportunity. Ensure the risk is managed. That's the first and foremost priority, and the profits will follow after the risk has been managed and the capital protection taken care of. Have a good rest of the weekend.